fine.
Good. So you're at home now? You're in England?
And I'm in San Francisco.
Oh,
actually.
okay. That's not bad. Now, when does the tour actually start?
It started 2 days ago.
Oh, okay. So that was the first show?
Yeah, it was wild, yeah. Played in Los Angeles first.
That's not exactly opening out of town.
No, but, we don't care. It's the first time we've played a Los Angeles show and the audience have actually been silent during the quiet songs, so at least they were listening this time.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And everything went, the performance was good and satisfied with things?
Yeah, it's a blast, as you say.
Okay. Now, you and I spoke as you guys were just getting started working on this album. A little bit of hindsight now. I know it's just out, but did you achieve what you set out to do, or is it too early to really know yet?
I think it's too early to know. I think it's funny, we kind of just stumbled around in a panic in a way, but it's come out all right, It was good that we didn't think about anything too closely, I think. We were too busy just sort of generally fretting and being hungry for new experiences. So it's ended up all right, but we just used a bit of a roundabout method of recording and stuff.
How so? When you say roundabout, how?
Oh, like recording 20 versions of the same song and then realising that the first one was the best one after all.
Which one did that happen
I'm exaggerating a bit, but it was a bit, some of the songs were like that. No Surprises we recorded, it was the first thing we ever recorded for this album. Literally the first time we turned on our new tape machine and we recorded a version of it and then thought it was kind of a bit sort of slow and out of time, and a few months later recorded some more versions, and then a few months later realised that the very first one was the best one we'd done, so that kind of roundaboutness.
Sure. Well, when do you set out to do, when the idea in your head is just to find something different and, a different path to walk, how hard is that to accomplish? Is there a danger of just steering away from stuff because you think it sounds the slightest bit like what you might have done before?
I suppose so, but it's kind of boredom that's driving you forward rather than, the desire to be seen to be doing something different. It's sort of you just are hungry for new things yourself, let alone what anybody else will want to hear.
Sure. So what kind of things came first on this album?
How do you mean?
Well, which was the music that you came up with writing-wise that you were coming up with first, and how did that tell you that it was going?
Well, it sort of blurs over into the bands a bit because there was a demo of Subterranean Homoscalian that we did while we were recording the bands. So it's not like we just started writing new songs in January and recorded them all a few months later. It was all a bit of a mess, really. So I can't really think what came first.
Sure. Well, now, is that song markedly different than it was on the demo you had worked on back then?
Yeah, enormously different. That was originally just Tom by himself with a piano, and in the final version there's no piano and there's no acoustic guitar, and it was written on an acoustic guitar to begin with, so it has transformed a lot, I think.
Sure. People, a lot of reviewers are finding a theme to this album. Is it there for you as well?
Finding what, sorry?
A theme to the album.
Not especially. It's too much of a mess, really, I think, to have any kind of concept or a theme. I think it's sort of just trying to describe what last year was like in England and in our lives and stuff. So that would be the theme. But I don't know. You could sort of clumsily tie 2 or 3 of the songs together with computers, or another 2 or 3 with transport, but I don't know. I think it's kind of, we're not we don't have the strength to plan what we do. I don't think we don't have the foresight.
Well, where did the title come from?
It was a song that wasn't very good, but it always had a very good title, and we decided it was a good introduction to the album as a title, a good way to introduce the 12 songs, even if it's not a perfect way to sum up every single song.
Sure. No, it's funny because, as you describe the album as a mess and such, to me it sounds like a very cohesive album.
Right.
So I'm curious about that, your own perception of it as a mess.
Well, but maybe that's where the cohesion is. I mean, it was trying to be 12 very different things. Each song was trying to sort of come from a different angle. We probably failed because we are, that we are the same people. I'm talking real trite rubbish here, but I mean, it's always going to have cohesion if it's the same 5 people and it's the same time of year, same year that the songs were written, and we're all in a similar mood. I think that's where the cohesion comes from. But it was never going to come from us sitting around the table and saying, let's do an album like this, or let's do an album on this subject. So.
What kind of place was Radiohead in at the time you were making this? And I'm thinking in terms of, just mental, emotional. Where was the orientation of the band in terms of what that last year or 2 years had been like?
It was, I don't know. It was weird for us because we'd released the Bends and we'd ended up in that sort of weird netherland being liked by other bands instead of actually, it was just whenever we came to America anyway, the only people who seemed to sort of know of us were like other local bands and other, and that was just a bit weird. And we were recording in that kind of, being a band, which isn't something that you really set out to do.
Sure. Well, do you have to block out everything? I mean, just to make sure that you're not writing and making music for other musicians, but at the same time not just wholesale, going willy-nilly trying to figure out what's going to sell.
I always get very wary when bands claim that they're doing music solely for themselves, and and that it's a bonus if anybody likes it. And I think that's one of the biggest lies ever told by a band. It doesn't feel like we're being quite that obsessed with ourselves. I think we're providing music for people. We're not just doing it for our own ears.
Sure. But does the conversation come up about whether a song is commercial or likable?
Not really. There was a sort of this smell in the air a couple of years ago that was sort of suggesting that we were all ready to do the next big commercial third album crossover radio hit American thing, and we've missed, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending how you look at it. It just sort of tumbles out how it tumbles out, and you deal with it how you can. I don't know. It's difficult to predict, isn't it? What is and isn't going to be commercial.
Oh.
And we trust our own opinion with that. On that subject, we just tend to turn our brains off when you hear words like markets and and audience research and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, when you're playing live, do you get a sense of what's connecting, sonically with an audience?
I think not especially. I don't think so. It's more with the people you meet afterwards. I don't know. I'm kind of. Whenever I can see bands, I always feel like I'm the only person watching the audience, and it's sort of. So that's how I look at an audience. They're kind of. I'm not explaining myself. I used to be very articulate before I was in a band, believe it or not. Anyway, yeah, it's all about how you view a band, really. Whether you go and see a band as with 20 friends and you're really excited to be surrounded by so many people, or I always used to think that I was the only. It's very egotistical, but I used to think I was the only person who was really watching and really kind of enjoying the music, but was quite prepared to believe that everyone else in the room was thinking similar things. It's quite a solitary thing, I think. I don't know. I'll probably change my mind tomorrow. I'm very bad at interviews for this reason.
Actually, that makes you good. Well, one thing in another interview that you did, it was either with Mojo or Q. I remember you spoke at some length about a whole Pink Floyd influence on this album.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, it was a couple of years ago, and I chanced upon some early Pink Floyd albums, and I was just curious because, I mean, the cliche that we were always fed when I was at school was that, you know, punk came along and killed off this nasty thing. And I was just curious to see what this nasty thing was exactly. And the other cliche about Pink Floyd is that they were rubbish after Syd Barrett left. So I wanted to see if that was true as well, and it's not really. I kind of was surprised to find some good Floyd albums from 1971 and 72, that kind of era.
Which kind of stuff did you pick up on?
Metal, I think it's amazing. And what else? Some of the Scared by Clouds, very good. So yeah, I sort of felt ripped off, really.
So do you think, I mean, did it factor into anything that came into OK Computer?
I don't know, not consciously. I mean, it's not like I kind of was converted and started loving everything Floyd had done. I still can't bear most of the wall, especially the lyrics, which I think are awful. But I suppose so. I think there was more confidence about songs being slower and not being in a panic to fill every second with something, you know, supposedly interesting in inverted commas. There was a song like The Tourist, for example, was just, that might have come from a, you know, from that angle. I don't know though.
How did the various touring you did on the Bends, you know, affect your own outlook towards music? You know, being out with REM, then Alanis Morissette, and you know, whoever else. What type of outlook did that affect your outlook on things at all?
Not especially. I mean, everyone's sort of saying to us afterwards, you know, did we want to, you know, be like REM and keep that integrity going, and that would be great. But a part of me also admires the stuff that Frank Black used to say when he was in the Pixies, and he used to say that they just wanted to sort of do a few good albums and then fuck off and, you know, make their point and then leave it at that. So I don't know, I'd kind of happily do either, really.
Well, it's impressed me that the Radiohead does comport itself with a large degree of integrity, simply because, you know, the music you're making doesn't exactly run with the grain of what's been successful. You know, you're not a grunge guitar band,
right?
And things like that. I mean, you do make music that's a little bit slow and moody in spots,
right?
So that's I would think that would. I mean, is there any? It's hard to figure out exactly how to phrase this, but can you look at that and say, yeah, we are accomplishing something that we want?
Accomplishing something that we want. Yeah. I don't know. It's not really just about that. It's more accomplishing what we want. I don't know. There's always, better songs to write, really. I don't know. Sorry, I've lost you. Ask me another question.
It's okay. How has the nature of the band changed over the years? In the way you all work together and the roles you all take on?
I don't know. Well, as a band, we've started to rely less and less on traditional structures and traditional people, and by that I mean we were not sort of like the use of producers and the use of real recording studios and the use of real video makers and the use of real, proper CD art design people. We've been basically losing all those kinds of people over the years until now. We're just doing everything ourselves, just about. And that was always an ambition, I think.
Tell me about the recording at St. Catherine's Court. It sounded like that was quite an adventure.
It was wild. You'd come down in the morning at 11 o'clock, whatever, and Stanley Donwood, the artist, would be set up by the recording, by the tape machine, kind of designing the album artwork, and we were giving him ideas and stuff, and then the recording would start for a day, and it would just be the weirdest house, weirdest location. There was no, you couldn't get any radio signals or TV signals. It was in this valley in the middle of nowhere. It was just very isolated, but at the same time it was quite exciting. There was a bit of a sort of, teachers away kind of atmosphere, because we were all the same age and there was no sort of older professional type of music business we're the first band in this building to be recording, and it was just instead of being the 500th band this year to have recorded in that studio, and that was a good feeling.
Sure, and you did some interesting things just in terms of where particular things were recorded in the building, right?
Yeah, there were so many great rooms to use. There was like a deserted nursery upstairs with always broken toys that Phil did a lot of drumming in. There was like a big stone entrance hall that Tom did the singing for Exit Music and a few others in. And you can really hear it on the record, I think. So it's cool to try and record that kind of stuff.
Sure. Now, what are the plans now? You're doing your own tour now. What's going to happen over the next few months or over the course of the year?
I think we're just going to carry on doing our own tour. I think we've had enough of supporting bands. It was fun for a while, but you kind of want to be more frightened about your own concerts rather than just relying on the fact that everybody's there to see the next band, and it doesn't matter if you're not very good. And it's more enjoyable. It's more frightening now.
And you like being frightened?
Yeah, I think it's healthy. Healthy fear is a good thing.
Sure. Are you into like horror movies and stuff too?
No, I wouldn't go that far. I think just sort of uncertainty maybe instead of fear is the word.
Well, I mean,
being as just going to a venue and being as wide-eyed and unsure as to what's going to happen as the audience hopefully will be. I think it's important for band and audience to go into a venue with the same sort of excitement and a lack of certainty as to what they're going to see.
Okay, you are how old now?
I'm 25.
25. Okay, married, single?
Oh, I'm happy.
Okay.